Okay, here we slide in from the side again. Another day, another video. Before I go any further, please do me this favor. Smash that thumbs up button and maybe leave a comment. Tell me where you're from, what you learn on my channel, and even share with your friends on social media. Please help my channel grow, because it's really hard to get into the algorithm these days, and I need all the help I can. Now, in this video, this is an old video. It is a video of me painting roses in one go. I started actually 4 in the morning. It is, I think it's like, was 2012 or 13 or something. And I painted from constantly from 4 o'clock in the morning. I just picked the roses in the park, and I painted until 12 or 1 in the afternoon. The reason I did that was because these roses, when they grow, they die very fast and they change very fast. It's not like the roses you are buying in a store, which is basically made by humans. It is wild roses. They smell really good, actually. So I had to paint this in one go. That is why it became quite sketch-like. But I had to focus my painting and every brush stroke very pinpointed to make that happen. Because usually I go in rougher with my stuff, with my painting from the beginning. And I kind of move around the paint and move around all the texture as I go along. If you're going to do a very nice kind of sketchy painting, you have to pinpoint it a little bit better. And maybe I will do that in the future, because I used to make prettier sketches. But what I also noticed was when I made them too pretty, it was kind of heartbreaking tearing them down, because you have to kill your darlings to get further in a painting. And when you do that, you actually lose a lot of spontaneous, beautiful brushwork, and you have to go through this horrible situation of breaking it down, becoming a kind of a mush. You lose a lot of dynamic, and then you have to kind of build it up again and hope that you are skilled enough to move it to the next level. But in this one, I did basically one sketch, or one go. And I took in the video I'm posting now. It is actually a full process video on my YouTube channel in 7.20 format. It's a low format because I posted my videos after my former channel was hacked. And at that time I just had been arrested, and the police had all my data, and I got it back, Odin. So I could actually start posting in high quality again. But when I started reposting in the new channel, I didn't have the source material, and I posted videos in lower resolution because I just downloaded my own videos from the internet or from YouTube before my channel was deleted, which it was in the end. And it's very sad, because I had real problems getting into the algorithm after that. Anyway, I'm reposting this video. I also used music in that video and didn't talk much. I talk in the beginning, and then I just play music as in a painting flow with music. But in this one, I am doing audio voiceover, talking about painting, talking about texture, talking about how I think, the universe and everything as usual. And there's also chapters in it, so if you jump around, you might find your favorite chapter. Yeah, so what I will do now in the future is to post, of course, a lot of new videos, because I have a lot of new videos coming up. And I will also post all the videos that is low resolution again on my channel, and make the viewer experience better. So with this was longer introduction than I thought. There's second introduction and will come up now. So with this, I hope you enjoy the ride and give it a huge thumbs up. If you want to have me as a patron or as a mentor, you can go to my Patreon and sign up there. You find different tiers. I will also add some new one. You can also buy me a coffee, or you can come to my super chat, do super chats when I do lives. And there you can also ask me all kinds of questions, painting questions, and all kinds of questions, if you like. So, with this, I say cheers with my cup of coffee, and now I'm gonna let you watch the video. A little thing, this painting was sold to a friend of mine in America. She was called Sky, her name was Sky Ladon, and she sadly died right after she bought this painting from me, and it's a quite sad story, but she loved it, and it's now in the United States with her family, so there's that. Anyway, in her loving memory, yay. So, here we go.
Hello. You see time. It's like 5 to 4 in the morning. It's Friday night until Saturday. And I'm going to paint these roses that I picked today. I'm going to paint kind of Impressionist painting. See if I can finish it in like 4 or 5 hours. So it'll probably be finished in 9 o'clock in the morning. That's how I live. So I work usually work at night. But I can't really make these. I have to do it now because they die very fast or change very fast. So I just have to get it done now. Anyway, I'm gonna paint them on these canvas. I hope I can. Usually I work more detailed, so just see what happens. Maybe for a while I decide to take a photograph of it and just keep on painting, but I'll let you see what happens. Yeah. So yeah, this is my studio. It's quite nice. Made in a classical way. Classical. Yeah. So nice of you to like my videos, that you learn something from them. Kind of makes it worth it. And I do add people on Facebook, but I like people to send me a personal message and tell me who they are and stuff like that, because I had so many strange people as friends. I kind of don't really add much anymore. So, okay, thank you. Bye bye. Yeah, so here we go. What I usually do is that I start up with some points of light. Now you see, it depends how much I want to. Now there's one flower there, and I have to count like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6, approximately, and that's basically how I do it. I don't have a recipe. I just start somewhere, and then I let my intuition take over. Just points, and I try to judge how the distance between the different objects. And I have to do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Maybe 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6.5 basically.
I've seen there's a lot of figurative artists who's using what's it called, projectors, and I find a challenge to get things right, to be the most gratifying thing, to challenge myself. I'm not. I love science, but I'm not a scientist. So I mean, this is the closest I can get to being a scientist. And for me, it's the harder something is, the more fascinating it becomes in a way. That's why I usually work on huge canvases. Maybe it feels like it's a bigger challenge. Maybe I'm lying to myself, because I have also made some small paintings, and it's with figure paintings, and it's quite hard. So maybe I'm not right there. You see, if you take a look at Jan Vermeer, his paintings are his beautiful artwork. He really shows that a picture don't have to be big to be good. Big is not necessarily better. You see here how I kind of just start with points and try to, because I'm adjusting this through the whole process. This one's going to be a little bit bigger, I guess, and this one too. If I don't do any really big mistakes, it's gonna wind up to be quite good, I guess. It's like there, so about here, almost here. This is. I have a group on Facebook. So if anybody have any questions, you could just ask me there, if they add themselves to the group. Yeah. Or on YouTube. So I don't always see the things people post on YouTube, but I'm trying the best that I can. Now it's here. I'm starting quite fluidly now, because I know I'm not gonna paint on this many times. So is that right? Maybe it's a little bit there. Comes in here. Here. This thing it's like a drop. It's beautiful. I took some pictures of a girl that I'm painting with this, holding it, and it became very nice. Colors, and you know, the highlights in the glass and stuff like that. It's the kind of thing that makes it interesting. Yeah, I guess something like this maybe. Like this. I love how I can see the end of the roses in the water. It's so beautiful. Anyway, I'm going to stop babbling and get on with it, and I'm going to play Vertical, a concert by U2. U2. I love U2. It's and they are using their music to do charitable work, and
promote human rights and stuff like that. And it's a lot of pathos, quite pretentious too, but it's beautiful music, and I like the mood, pathos, yeah, whatever. It's hard to talk and paint at the same time because it's two different brain parts of the brains that I'm using when I'm painting and talking. So I guess they are colliding right now. Probably like talking and having sex at the same time. It's not a good thing. That's smart. Talking and dancing. Talking and fighting. I don't know. So, well, anyway, now you basically see how I start. So maybe you get something out of it. What I do now is that I start to use the background to get kind of the stilk, stilk in Norwegian, the leaves, and yeah, to just get it out like this. What else here? Okay, anyway, the point is I use the lights behind to kind of drag, make the shapes, and then I fill it in when I'm painting. Yeah, that's what I do. Okay, hope it's helpful. Yeah. Okay, in this clip I want to talk about how I painted the roses on this canvas, or how it is to paint from Natura contra photo. I also actually painted this same motif from a photo after the fact, and of course that became way more photographic than this one, which I painted over basically 8 or 9 hours in one go. I did, however, go over it a couple of more times or a couple of days later, but just for a glaze and a touch-up. But this is the main thing I did with it, so it's quite interesting actually. But the difference is when you are painting from Natura like I did in this one, you are way more overwhelmed with expressions or impressions than if you do it from a photo. As you can see in this one, I'm using a quite hard side light to illuminate the contrasts. Of course you can't see exactly what I saw when you see it, but I do it so that I enhance the shapes and get more depth and shadows. I do think I've heard that Rembrandt actually used some, they had in their windows or in the wall, they had this small things you can remove, so sunlight came out from the outside. In Norway we call it luker. It's like you cover the window and you have this wooden thing you can slide over, and you get the light sent right into the room exactly where you want it, because of course Rembrandt and the classics usually painted in daylight, and if they wanted to have a very hard or strong light contrast, they needed to do that when it was sunlight. And of course with the kind of skill they used to have, it was no problem for them to, after the fact, after they had painted in the main light source, to use their imagination and then go back to it when the sun came back and fix it. And that is probably also why Rembrandt is so
his paintings come so alive because they are done in natural light. I use fluorescent lights in my studio, and usually I work at night. In the studio I have now, I do not have much windows because it's most a cellar actually, and there's some light coming in from some small windows, but it's not enough to paint in, so I use fluorescent lights. I also kind of like that the light is more stable. If you are painting in daylight and real objects, you will have the problem with everything changes all the time, because there's such a big difference in cloudy light, sunlight, evening light, morning light. All these lights has their own range of colors compared to the weather and the distance to the sun and where it's at. So, you know, in evening light you have a lot more warm colors. In morning light you have kind of a mix. It's warm and cold, so it's kind of weird. I love the morning light, by the way. It's some of the most beautiful thing I think. But anyway, when I do this from Natura, there are many times things too. Overwhelmed by impressions. Also, of course, since it's roses, and these are the kind of wild roses which grow outside. It's not what you buy in a store. So they kind of bloom and then they fall apart very fast because they are not genetically made to live for a long time. They open up, they close, open up, and boom, they're gone. So you have to be quick when you paint roses like this. And it was actually, I started on this painting, as you saw in the introduction, like 4 o'clock in the morning, and I kept on painting until I think it was like 12 or 1 in the afternoon. So it's crazy how much energy, and this is now 10 years ago, and it kind of feels weird because I also can see that I'm aging now, and I have to be more careful with my choices, and I don't have that much energy anymore. So I need to also do more adjustments to my lifestyle and stuff, and use intermittent fasting and stuff, so I don't have any food in my stomach while I'm working, because then I'm in ketosis and my energy comes back and I'm more like in a war mode. Anyway, back to the painting. As you can see, I get overwhelmed by these impressions, and I just try to grab information and throw it at the painting. It is of course the same thing I do when I do from a photo, but it is more difficult. I should do even more painting from model, because at this point I have basically forgotten how I paint people from Natura. I haven't done any self-portraits either for a long time, so I should pick up that again and start working from model, because the difference between painting from model or real still life and is the thing with the information. Also, every single time you look away from the object and you look back, your eyes adjust way more, because the canvas is more calm. Then I look at the object where I have this side light on, and it is quite intense, so my eyes are basically working like crazy, adjusting to the difference in the lights. You will get the same problem if you paint from photo and you use a very bright screen, because I see some people actually paint from their mobile telephones or some tablet or something, and if you have too strong light on the tablet and you look at it, it will change your color vision back and forth, and can actually be an extreme strain on your eyes. So if you're going to do from photo, I would recommend that you do it from a good art photo printed out with a good printer, so you don't get into this crazy thing with the screen changing, and this can actually make your eyes suffer over time. If you, it's as a known fact, if you use a lot of time on screens, your eyes are really getting damaged over time. So please, you don't use a screen, but get a good printer. I have a very good professional printer where I print out my photos, and it's a good investment. You will get a lot out of it. So just drinking some coffee here, and now, as you know, in this original video I played music, and the other video, of course, you find a link to the first file with the music in description, and it's nice because it's more like a painting flow, where you just watch me paint while I listen to music, and you can see how my nights actually works when I just play music and enjoy the flow. It's a little bit different when I do my painting tutorial and I talk while painting. I do not reach that deep flow then, and if I do, I actually go silent, and maybe some of you who have watched my videos have actually seen how I sometimes just go totally silent, and that is when I shift over to the deeper flow, when I forget that I'm actually filming. So there's that. As you can see, it's a very slow process, because what's also important is when I do it from Natura, I had to be way more conscious about getting everything right from the start, because I didn't have the luxury of having it dry and then go in with overpaint and correct mistakes. So I had to do everything right the first time. There were no room for correction. So in some way, it is basically like doing watercolor, where you can't go in and fix it if you really screw up. So that way, it's a very, very intense thing to do, and I should do more of it. Maybe I should do a new one. Now it's summer again, so maybe I should pick some new flowers and just make one more, and set off like 12 hours where I just go crazy and I film the process and make a new one of this, because I know people love seeing me painting flowers or roses. It is actually a popular thing, so I should do more of it. Also, it's a challenge. And of course, I should also start doing way more self-portraits. Yeah, you see there, that's music, and you can see me paint this. And what happens when I play music, when I paint, it's like it is a dance. It is a dance, and if you have the legs for it, stand while painting. It's good for your system, the blood flow and the lymph system, and actually you burn through some calories when you do it. So if you want to lose some weight, actually standing there and painting, especially if you are in ketosis and you don't stay away from sugar, it will be a very good thing for your immune system also. So use your painting to enhance your health. That is one of the things that is also it can help with. And I will say that when I do good work, when I'm really focused, I'm losing weight, and when I'm not focused, I'm gaining weight, because then I start eating wrong and everything. For me, there are couple of pillars in my life, and that is exercise and having a healthy diet. And if I can do that and do also painting on top, my life is just beautiful. So yeah, I just try to pick up. I remember so well when I did this. I was cycling out like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I picked these roses, and I just decided now I'm gonna paint roses, and I just did it. Yeah. What more to say in this one? If you see the shadows behind there in how the light hits, I think that is a very good way to get the kind of a Rembrandt type of shadows. You can also control the shadows, of course, with where you put the light. And I basically use just a crude spotlight and send the light in. Of course, doing that, I see my paintings, I get a lot of contrast and stuff. And sometimes in some photos it's burned out because I put on maybe too much light. So that can be the problem with using photo, because many times it's the photo makes the dark places too dark and the light way too light again. And since I've also used a lot of analog photo, it's hard for me to know exactly how they turn out. But sometimes they just become exquisitely beautiful, and sometimes they just miss the mark, and that's a chance you just have to take. I remember I was in New York once, and I took a whole photo session of a burlesque dancer girl, and tragically none of them came out. Okay, thank you for watching this segment, and see you in the next one. Okay, let's talk about brain health and the challenge of sketching. As I talked about in the former segment, it is difficult. It is time consuming. It is it uses a lot of calories. As I said, also you can actually lose weight by painting, because especially if you stand. When it comes to brain health, what I mean with that is what it does to your brain on a physical level. We know that things like Alzheimer's or neurological diseases are often triggered by the wrong foods, the lack of use, the lack of new things that you do, and all kinds of side effects if you don't use your brain. You do get brain atrophy, as you get atrophy in your D if you don't use it, with it mean the P or the P and ES, if you know what I mean. And you get it all over the body, because the brain needs stimuli to connect new neurons. So if you want to live a longer life, and I think that is why a lot of artists actually become very old, and that is if they of course don't drink themselves to death or commit suicide because of existential problems and addictions, which also comes with the territory when you are an artist. I would say that most artists has probably some trauma in their childhood. They have probably hypomania, ADHD, like me. I have both hypomania and ADHD. And we have a lot of inconsistent or things in our brain that doesn't really work very evenly. And that is what kind of forces us to do creative work. Because creative work, or do something, work with something, actually soothes this inherent restlessness that we are plagued with 24/7. And I have had this all my life, all the way back to I was a child. And the remedy against it has always been moving, thinking, doing, and stuff like that. It comes with a silver lining for me anyway. When I was in prison for a year, I exercised, I was drawing, thinking, and I was working as a carpenter and a painter in the prison. And once I got a job which was actually making painting 5,000 sticks around a villa down in a city, and I had to paint every stick 5 times, or was it 5 times? So you can 5,000 times 5. You can imagine how much painting that actually was. And but I, with my ADHD, with my ruminating, and with all my inner conflicts and inner things I had to deal with, it was no problem. It was soothing. It was perfect. I went there and I did this for like 7 hours a day, 7.5 or something. And then I did my exercise, and then I started drawing and writing. And to me, that was perfect. So with a brain like that, with that kind of artistic brain, if you have the ADHD, if you have the hypomania, doing repetitive work is actually a good thing for us. So as an artist, if you can't actually earn money from your art, the best thing you can do is to get a job where you do basically the same thing over and over and over, and you can stand there and ruminate and create art in your head. You can write books in your head. You can do all these things while you're actually doing some work which gives you a steady income. So I wouldn't recommend an artist to get a complex job like being boss over somebody, or create something on the side, or you have to deal with customers or stuff like that. No, I would get a repetition job in a factory and just stand there and do this job and ruminate. That is what I would do. Anyway, and that is basically what I do when I start painting. First I pick out the motif, like I did in this one, the flowers. And then the rest is basically painting the sticks. Of course, it's a little bit more advanced than this, because I have to place it right, and especially in this one, where I have to do the whole thing in one go. It was really challenging, because there was many levels at the same time. But when you get into that flow, it's no problem. It is absolutely no problem for me standing there for, I think it was like 10 hours, or it was 8 or 10 hours, I'm not sure. But time just flies. And as I did when I was in prison also, I just put some earplugs in my ears. I had my tea and my coffee, and I was just playing, listening to music on the radio, and just flowing, thinking. So it was kind of perfect. I actually miss it sometimes, because it was so simple. And that is what we have to do. We have to create a life which is simple, which is easy to follow, with repetition and with creative work. Now, on the level of the brain, when I paint, I make my brain younger. And that is the point with why I say brain health and creating textures and stuff. Every time I snap up some information and I place it on the canvas, my brain starts to boost up the connections in my brain on the creative side. And of course, as we know, human beings are different from other animals, because of the introspection and the complex brain and the creativity and all that. You know, a chimpanzee, which is our closest relative on the planet now, wouldn't understand the point. He wouldn't understand why would he do something like that, because there is no introspection. There is no I think therefore I am. There is no call it soul. I don't call it soul because I'm an atheist. I call it introspection and genetic potential with a big brain who is playing an orchestra. what is the point actually with what I'm doing here? What is the goal? What is the end result? Well, it is to give myself something to do, I guess, some kind of sense of meaning in a universe which is probably without any inherent meaning, and at the same time building a brain who actually loves being. And that is also what creative work does with your brain. You get a constant sense of purpose, which is the closest you can actually come to anything I would call meaning. Because is there any meaning in our existence inherently? I don't think so. I don't think the multiverse and the quantum soup has as a goal to create consciousness on a planet in an infinite multiverse. I don't think it's a goal of the universe. Maybe it is. Maybe there is some underlying thing in the multiverse or infinity that actually wants to create conscious beings. So someone is actually observing this universe. As Carl Sagan did say, we are a way for the universe to know itself. And it is tempting, of course, to think that infinity and infinitely many universes and galaxies in these universes and planets and suns and beings is actually the goal of the existence of everything, or the number 42 or whatever we will call it, from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Is that the goal of the universe? Yeah, it's hard to tell. I don't think so. I have to doubt this. I don't think it does. But when you look at infinity, you never know. Maybe there is something out there. I don't think so. What happens to all the bad people? What happens to people like Adolf Hitler and Stalin and Pol Pot and Genghis Khan and Alexander the Great, and people who just destroyed? They destroyed countries for power. They destroyed everything. And yeah. So also, I think if you really get into really deep, honest artwork, like really deep, I think it's gonna make you a better person, because it will trigger reflection. And I'm not talking about the artist who have huge narcissistic traits, that actually already believes in his own genius because he has the word artist behind his name. I'm talking about the person who is humble, who has real introspection, who is really logged on in his own existence in a way, and sees himself a little bit from the outside, objectively. I'm not talking about the smug, the artist who are doing it out of vanity. I'm talking about the person who is earthed, who acknowledge that what he's doing is not really important in the big schemes of things, but that is just to bring some positive thing into the universe and then leave, and hopefully somebody else gets something positive out of it. And yeah. And of course, if you can actually also make a living from it, it would be great. Now, here you can see, I just more and more, you can see how careful I am in this painting. Usually I would go way faster, and my brain is just, yeah, I did a mistake, and then I just went over it here, and I probably have to sketch it one more time. You have no idea how much I learn from every single painting I do. I become a little bit better. Even at the age of 58, I feel I still get better. The only thing is, like I talked about in the other segment, is that I notice that I can take less. I need more sleep. I can't eat the wrong foods and do stuff like that. When it comes also to things that will trigger and ruin artists, is of course sugar, it is alcohol, it is too much partying, too much distractions through stuff like that. So if you're gonna max out your potential as especially as a figurative painter who is doing work which is really difficult, you just have to create a healthy brain, and that is hence to the line or to the title of this. Brain health is extremely important to build, and you can do that the scientific way. Never do things, never do health things or other things that actually affects you physically from other things than science. So to find out what will work and what will help your brain to get better, go to YouTube or somewhere else and Google it: brain health, creativity, brain health, aging, stuff like that, and really try to teach yourself or educate yourself in what to do to maximize the brain. And of course, it's even hard to do when you know these things. Because I've known these things for a very long time. Stay away from sugar. Don't drink too much alcohol. Do not exercise too hard. Do not exercise too little. Get enough sleep. Do not spend your dopamine on porn or any other thing that brings you out of the flow. It can be bad TV series, it can be porn, it can be anything. Don't do it. Just try slowly to build a brain who leads you to the right things. And the right things is always flow and creativity. Engaging with every single moment of your day in a constructive and creative way. That is actually what building a healthy brain is. So I don't know what comes first, a healthy brain and creativity, but you have to assume that you are born with a healthy brain, and then you start screwing it up, and we just have to stop screwing it up and make the best out of it and keep it as healthy we can through food, exercise, creative work, reading, engaging, discussing with yourself, being critical to your own thoughts, changing your mind when you're proven wrong, and do all these things, and your brain will be with you for the rest of your life in a very positive way. And remember, you are not a body, you are not a brain, you're a body, you're a holistic thing, and the brain is the most important organ you have, except from your heart, lungs, and all the other things. Okay, see you in the next segment. So, in this part, I will talk about does doing art matter? And of course, that is a really good question, because you have to think about on which level does it matter? Does it matter on the society level? Does it matter on the personal level? Does it do anything in the real world? What would we actually miss if art was disappeared compared to what if science was disappeared out of existence? Now, art and science, of course, is traditionally in classic culture, of course, intertwined and linked, like you see in the artworks of Leonardo da Vinci. And that is why I always say artists should try to look more like or emulate more of the sciences, where they have an objective standard, the best in art, the best in thinking, the best in even science, as an objective standard for what is good. that you don't fall into what I called mediocrity and true relativism. The common thing people say who do not understand the depth of skill is we're all different, and that kind of removes this skill thing, that any expression of subjectivity is good because it is subjectivity. But in my view, it is a false premise, and it's because if you do not have an objective standard to see your art through, as you would see in life, we'll use maybe ethics, humanistic thinking, do good, don't do harm as the objective standard. You will have to have an objective standard for your art, and in my view, the best objective standards is the absolute best in painting, in drawing, in sculpture, in music, in poetry, in writing, in thinking, like Stoic thinkers like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius, thinkers like Albert Camus, or of these great people who all came basically, and Nietzsche and Dostoevsky, and all of these people in some way came to the same conclusions when it comes to what's good for the human condition, and that is deep thinking and being willing to be honest. So if art leads to more consciousness, it really has a place, and it really is very important. And I do think it is a great shame that so few people actually have this creative hobby, have this feeling of doing something that makes them feel that life has some purpose or meaning. And if anything, art and poetry and writing has, it can give you a sense of meaning in this brief existence we have. And if it has a benefit, that is one of the things. If you look at artists through time, many good artists hasn't been necessarily good people. They have been horrible to women, horrible to the children. They've been solipsistic, they've been narcissistic, they've been all kinds of stuff. They have supported dictators. They have, like, even artists or people who made music supported Nazism. And that is why I say that art is not necessarily an antidote to fascism and destruction. But still, it has can has a positive effect on introspection and connecting with other human beings. So actually everything, connecting with life itself, with nature, with deep thinking, and actually also empathy. You know, as I say, you shouldn't use empathy to decide what's right and wrong. You should use sympathy, because empathy is just a feeling. It's just an understanding that other people have feelings. And even a psychopath has empathy. Sometimes a psychopath has even more empathy than most people. What they do lack is the sympathy. And that is why when you see more of the narcissistic or psychopathic artists, and I will point out people like Picasso, maybe Salvador Dali, which were he weren't really a narcissist. I think he was more like a borderline personality disorder with traits. The real psychopath and narcissist there were actually his wife, who treated him really badly, and which he loved dearly, and that's very sad. But he did not go deep through his art. He didn't go deep into introspection. He didn't go deep into anything. And in his case, it didn't really pan out to becoming a great thinker or great person. And you see the same thing in people like Picasso. He treated people around him really badly. He was not a good man. He treated women badly, and he believed in his own subjectivity. He believed he was a genius, and that is a problem when it comes to artists, that they actually believe that they are special, that they are gifted, they have this gift from God or the gods, and that creates a situation where insecurities turns into narcissism, and they basically close down any hope to connect with the inner child, because they create themselves a false persona. Just because you're able to put some paint, as you can see in this video, on a canvas, doesn't mean that you're a good person. It doesn't mean that you are better than other people. It doesn't mean that you have skills that other people don't have or can't learn. It only means that you have done the work. If a person combines the skill with honesty and real thinking, real humility, it can actually become poetry. It can become poetry that any person on the planet can actually connect with on the personal level, and that is when art actually has meaning. I've seen a lot of art on YouTube which is just totally superficial. It is created for basically simple-minded people, which needs a kick, and it's done fast. It kind of looks good, but there is no substance, there is no depth, there is no, they don't work through it, they don't really go into it and challenge themselves. It's always on the surface, and that is just sad, because it creates a situation like media does, entertainment business does. They inundate, or they can, there's a flow of bad art who people watch because it gives this fast food kick. And the best things, the time consuming things, the things that actually will make a difference, are drowning in all this junk, which I will call simply junk. I'm actually going to make a couple of videos on my YouTube channel pointing out which ones I mean. And which ones are also good. But of course this is just my opinion, but I think there is some kind of objective measure. You can actually measure it objectively in how easy peasy it is, in how many cliches. Even in the brushwork you see that it's just full of cliche. It's just fast brushwork, and this was cool, and they put on some color here, and they kind of, especially when they paint over already traced faces and stuff, and just give it this superficial paintedness, which would make any master like Turner or Rembrandt or Vermeer to turn in their graves, because there is no real depth in this crap. So yeah, does it matter making art? Yeah, in my personal experience, and this is of course subjective, it helped me connect with my forgotten inner child, and it created space for deeper thinking, and I think it made me better over time. But it's hard to tell, because of course there were many other things that happened in my life also that to force me to think. But these things wouldn't have been so strong if I just kept being a welder on a shipyard instead of going into art, because the art itself, of course, made me having to face myself way more. When it comes to do really work that demands skill, it will also push you like a person who tries to break a record in 100 meter, or do something really difficult in sports or in chess or whatever. It will push your limits, so it has a profound, important place to create better brain, more skilled brain and stuff like that. So yeah. Now in this segment I'm gonna talk about how I paint wet and wet, and how I use my brushwork to add new brushwork over already very wet paint. And it's one of the most difficult things you can do, because here you have to really control yourself, and you have to make real hard choices all the time. Because if you paint too many layers in wet and wet, it will turn into dirt. If you don't keep things clean, if you don't keep things focused, and if you don't know enough about paint and colors, you will also just make a mess. So knowing as I knew in this painting, the goal was to make basically one layer. I did a little bit of touch up after the fact, but the point is that it was basically one layer painting. And I have to do, it's not really one layer, it's one layer of paint, which means I had to hold my brushes very light and choose every brushwork I would put in. As I said in a segment earlier, it is kind of like doing water paint, but you can mold a little bit better, because you can fix things that is totally wrong if you're really careful. But yeah, you have to control basically every move, and it's very good for the brain. I should actually do more of it, because it will focus my mind from the start. I did actually stop doing pretty sketches, because I found it hard to actually destroying them again, because that is what you have to do to get into real depth and real substance. So, but then again, doing both would probably be a good thing to do. And yeah, so I can't really decide, but the thing you have to do when you do wet and wet is you have to hold the brush. If it's already very thick paint, you have to hold the brush very light and grab the color and kind of make some kind of a rainbow within the brush with thicker colors where they mix together, not mix together, but kind of lace between each other. And then you just add this brushwork in one go, and you don't drag it down more, you have to just push it there and let it stay. So that is how I think. And of course it's like when you play the piano or you do music or you do anything, you have to have all kinds of different touches. In the low areas you will push the paint more into the canvas. In the high areas you want to keep it light, and so you don't destroy the former brushwork with adding too much brushwork on top of it. And if you do, you have to hold it lighter and lighter and lighter, the brush, so that you don't make a mess. So that is basically how you do a one wet layer of paint with different layers of brushwork. It is basically what the Impressionists did. And it's more difficult than you actually think. You have to be skilled doing it. Yeah, so I hope that explains a little bit about it. So see you in the next segment. And voila, here we are, new chapter. And in this chapter I'm gonna show you how I paint these roses. As you can see, I've already covered most of the surface with paint. There's a little bit in between, but now I'm trying to focus very deeply on choosing the right brushwork. As you can see, I also want to say, when I do these, when I do my sketches, I basically used, especially in the start, as you can see here, I used the brush as I would use a charcoal or a pen or whatever. I do scrabure with paint to get it right. Then it's thinner paint, just to get it right. The good thing is that I do have some leverage here. If I do some real mistakes, I can go thicker and fix it, but it's harder since I'm trying to do a one type of sketch. You see I've done a mistake there, now added in more. And I need to kind of find the right place. There I removed some paint and try to add it in there. So this is also a thing I took. If this was clay, I took the clay from one piece of the sculpture and I just moved it over to the other piece of the sculpture. So that is actually one of the things I really loved doing in Stavanger when I was a student there in art school, was to do sculpture, and I actually became quite good at doing human heads. So I have always wondered if I maybe should take that up again, because it's such a enjoyable process. And I do paint like a sculpture. I like to add paint in thicker and thin layers and build that relief type of Rembrandt way, as I always call it. You can also use your fingers, as you see here. But the main thing that I do in this video, as I say, with this process, is to choose slowly the brushwork. I do have some beautiful photos of some roses I took for a couple of years ago, and I haven't painted them yet, but I'm thinking I'm gonna maybe paint some huge rose still lifes now, and I will start in this way. I'm gonna try to do them very slowly and do quite perfect sketches, and maybe it is a challenge also to control it a little bit more so I don't do any mistakes. Usually what happens if I go too quick is that some things will become bigger. Usually it is bigger. An object will usually be bigger when I do a mistake. For some reason, it's almost like I see things bigger than they are. Maybe it's the way the brain is perceiving things that do that. So make sure to measure, as you have seen me when I do my portraits and stuff. I just measure with my pencil, measure the size approximately, and then I put in some points of light, and then I just build them from there. But usually they become a little bit bigger than they are supposed to. You see, I'm choosing going a little bit slow here, choosing brushworks, making choices. And that is, if you look at Impressionist painting, especially when I looked at Van Gogh, as paintings in reality, you could actually see what brushwork actually means. I mean, the intensity and the choices he has made, and you can see some of his painting, there's maybe just one thick brushwork, thick colors, and they are just gone in there and just put it down and observed and put it down and let it be. Because when you look at his painting, he can't just go over and over and over, because what would happen then is that the paint will turn into a mush, and the whole thing dies. So you can see that in his painting he has really been choosing, and that is very, very intense to see. The subjectivity, because that is where you actually see the artist in the paintings. It's not the motifs. Everybody thinks it's the motif. Oh, he's an expressionist. No, it is in the brushwork. And that is what I'm trying to tell people every single time. Every single time I am trying to teach somebody, I say, stop trying to be an artist. It doesn't matter what you paint. You have to fall in love with the brushwork, with the process, and building texture and form and shape, and kind of take your personality and just pour it into it. If you only do light sketches, you will never go down there. You can do it like this. It's not a light sketch. It is actually quite hard, because I know I can't fix it when I've done it. So yeah. I of course prefer many layers of colors, so that is why it's so hard to actually also do landscapes out in nature and do more than sketches. It's also difficult to do roses and stuff like that, because of course they die. So that is why I actually prefer to use photos when I do stuff like that. But as a good training session, doing this is also important. So you can see I'm over to the paint. I hope you learned something. I hope you tell me in comments. You see here, boom, there I put it in. There I chose it. And I continue going. So with this, I see you in my next segment. Yay! So here we are, ready to go. And let's see what we can do here. I'm going to start up here. You can see it straight in, and you can see more clearly what I'm doing. Now I'm trying to add shadows, and when I add shadows, I of course don't use any thick colors. I just keep it really low, and doing that, it creates simultaneously that you are adding paint, you are also adding a physical room, because when you do shadows, you shouldn't have thick brushwork in the shadows. It is important, however, to get some texture into it. You don't want the shadows to feel like a hole in the wall, if you know what I mean. And you have to use colors. You have to use the primary colors or a mix between the primary colors in the shadows, so they have some address to the main color, which is here, of course, is more in the pink, or I probably use a lot of alizarin here and ultramarine, as I usually do when I make the violet paintings. You can also see here how I added some small, thicker brushwork, and trying to just, as I said in the former segment, just go fetch information and decide where to go. Also, here you can see what I'm doing. I'm using the background to enhance the shape. So I'm just also making the background a little bit more flat, not so much texture, because in this one I, as I say, have only one go. So I can choose between giving the flowers more shape and thickness, or yeah, between that or creating a lot of textures in the background. It's kind of a wooden plate which is in the background, so I could actually add way more wooden texture and stuff like that, but that is where overpaints come in. You can't do that in one go. That is why Rembrandt and all the classics did many layers to create all the different textures in the walls and the clothes and everything. Then you just have to do many layers and glazing and all kinds of stuff to get that. And then you start using everything from sandpaper to your nails to scraping it down, glazing over, scraping it down again, and doing it over and over again. But here I don't have that luxury. Here I have to put in some strategic brushwork, which basically falls into the right places, so I can explain how the roses work with this one layer. Deeper texture is not possible here. And it has actually to do with how physical objects work. They are layered and they are physical. There's a texture, and to create this illusion of texture, you basically have to paint them as they would feel. So when Rembrandt painted the dress in the Night Watch, he wanted it had this stiff cloth, so he used a lot of lead white and stuff underneath, and also in certain areas he apparently used sand in the paint to create surfaces that were more, of course, textured and sandy. It's going to be quite cool because I'm going to paint Tila. It's my daughter's past dog, Rottweiler, and I have his ashes, and there is some texture in it, probably some bone fragments and stuff, and I'm going to use that in his fur and stuff to create different textures and build it out. So it's basically going to bury the dog in the painting. It's going to be quite fun to do. So that is also, of course, a challenge, and I'm happy to have that challenge. So here I also look at how I think. I do a little bit of geometrical, you see, boom, geometrical brushwork, just to kind of get the directions of the different leaves in the flower. See here, there, and yeah, there we had a more bluish, and there, so shadow. You see what I'm doing. I can also use, now I can actually shape the flower, and I can put in some shadows, and I drag some of the paint from the textures into that shadow thing, so it all becomes quite lucid and fluid. That's also a technique. I actually saw some portraits, or small portraits of Vermeer in New York, and what hit me was, wow, okay, that's how he makes his or makes all the lines disappear. He basically worked with the loosest parts, or the parts that disappears. He worked with them almost like it was watercolor, and he added the paint so subtly close to one another that it kind of just dissolved into one another. So that is a way to just make the lines go away. You just let it dissolve into one another. And then you can actually control it a little bit with adjustments and stuff, but that is a way to do it. And I had seen that in my own paintings by accident, because I learn from my own mistakes. It's the only thing I learn from. I haven't, nobody taught me, nobody's stand over me and telling me how to do stuff. I have figured out everything myself. Of course, I have great teachers, but they're all dead, like the dead heroes, the dead teachers like Rembrandt and Vermeer. And if you start to understand brushwork and texture, you will also be able to understand what to do. It's like a eureka moment when you just figure it out. Just, okay, that's how I did. And when you see that, it just opens up. It's the same thing. I was having a conversation with my monologue, probably, with my girlfriend today, and thinking starts the moment you doubt your own thoughts. The moment you start to doubt the culture you were brought up in, you start to doubt that your own religion is true, and you start to take in information that make you break through to understanding that your subjective opinions is not objective reality. And the same thing actually goes for painting. If you can actually break down your beliefs about painting and try to see it in a more objective way, and instead of looking at the motif all the time, you actually look at how it's painted. When you do understand that, there's a universe that opens up to you. It's difficult. That is when it becomes difficult, because then you start to paint instead of creating motifs. And the more you understand about building shape and building with color, the more difficult it gets, because you start to see more and it gets more difficult and see even more, and it just keeps piling on. It's not a situation where you can actually just learn something and now it's done. No, it's a process. It's like thinking. It's like critical and deep thinking. First you start to think, you start to understand that your subjective reality doesn't necessarily represent objective reality, and that's the beginning of thinking, and that is when all the problems also starts. Before that, you don't really exist as a person with introspection. People actually believe that they can do real abstract thinking and believing in religious nonsense at the same time, and that is not really possible. You do not, if you don't break down all your darlings, you will never be able to think deeply. To a certain point, yes, you can sound deep, you can act like you are deep, but you will meet a wall. And the same thing with painting. The only way to understand what painting is to basically understand that paint is about paint, and then you start to try to reach a higher level of skill. I absolutely don't think I'm, as I usually say, I'm very glad people think I'm a better painter than I do, because I can be quite ruthless with myself, and I should be, because what people see is not what I see. And sometimes I even think I did a crappy job, but also just think, well, I didn't have any more time, so I just have to pretend that it was good, because they can't see it anyway. But it feels horrible. That is why you should spend your time better yourself. You shouldn't use too much money. If you have some, use it to give yourself leverage, so you can actually spend the time which is needed on every object, and try to go deep. That is my advice. So yeah, here I start to add in. Now also, when I do these leaves, I do them darker, but then I build a little thicker paint around them, and I adjust them by kind of painting towards them. And that is also a way to remove lines. It looks like lines, it feels like lines, but it's not really lines because everything just crosses over. And if you zoom deep in, you will have problems seeing exactly where the transition from the leaf to the background is. And the more you can dissolve these things, the better the painting becomes. And the more you can differentiate the different textures and the different volumes in the painting, the more powerful and the more subjective it becomes. As I said, painting is not in the motif, it is in the way you paint. Okay, see you in the next segment. And I probably repeat myself a lot, but that's how it is. It's a long video. So, yay. Have a good one. What a good question. How brushwork create character, or can brushwork create character? And I think it can, because what is happening when you are doing a lot of painting is that you are evolving neurons in your brain. You also have the pleasure of going into a flow state, so it will, if you're a ruminator, it will be a space where you can think and think and think. You, at the same time as you actually are confronted with your own limitations, and as you evolve, as you solve problems, you will create more character. There's no doubt about that. I would like to say it's the same thing for sports, but I don't think it's true. I mean, too many sporting people have actually proved that. But then again, you can say that Adolf Hitler also proved that doing painting and artwork do not necessarily create character. And with character, I don't mean anything negative. I don't mean becoming a narcissistic monster, which he was or became in the end. Is not evolving character. That is the opposite thing. That is destroying your own humanity. So I don't think Adolf became Hitler because of his painting. I think it was despite his painting, and a lot of other reasons why that happened. And you can go back to his childhood and everything. But to open up to if you're a person who are relatively normal and you have empathy and sympathy for other human beings, and you have a good heart, but you are maybe struggling with some problems from your childhood or bullying or anything of that nature, I think doing figurative painting or painting in itself will be a very good way to connect with that inner child who is maybe sometimes even hiding behind the mask. If you have become a real narcissist, it's quite difficult to bounce back from. But if you have some borderline issues and stuff, I think painting can be a very good way to open up that room. It actually did it for me. Through painting, through creative work, I was able to connect with the child and reinstate him as my inner voice. And at the age of 58, I have to say I now remind me more of the child who went and built huts for his ducks and animals and tried to save birds and walked in nature and created my own kind of fish tanks with stuff I found in rivers and stuff. And yeah, I became that child, and I have had a period in my life where I closed off. And when I started in art school, I was a young, very restless womanizer, um, kind of a sex addict in a way, because I needed new girls all the time. And I wasn't like that as a child. I wasn't even like that as in the beginning of puberty. But I kind of, as things happened, I became more and more superficial and more and more needy for attention. And I realized I could also get attention. So maybe that is what happened, that I figure out a way to get attention. But when I started in art school, I went from doing a superficial thing, that exercising a lot and partying a lot and having a lot of girlfriends and stuff, to become more thoughtful. And at some point, it took actually 30 years, or at least 25 years, to become all the way logged on again. And a lot of other things had to happen to make me get there. But brushwork absolutely helped me in this process. And yeah, I never evolved full-blown narcissism, but I think I was pretty close. But as I say, the child in me wasn't dead, so painting opened up to me again. And I think it will do that for everyone. But you have to approach painting in a very self-critical and very, shall we say, you can't believe in the artist myth. You can't believe that what you are doing is good just because you are doing it. You mustn't fall into the trap of hiding behind things like everybody's different, everybody has their own expression, and all these kinds of cliches that many artists do, just to cover up the fact that they don't go deep and they don't go challenge themselves in the painting, or turn to more conceptual art, or what I would say motive-based art. You see this all over the internet. You see this motive-based art where they have learned themselves some tricks to make things that looks like good painting. Like the worst of them is probably Bob Ross. But there are many others who are even more superficial than that. And the only thing is that I hide it better because they are slightly better painters, and they fool people. And the thing with, if you are honestly going deep into brushwork, you will be honest enough to learn from it. You will be honest enough to try to get better, to be a little bit self-deprecating, having objective standards that is way better than you, and try to stretch yourself towards that. And that is with everything in life. I mean, if you like to think, you need to listen to great thinkers like Seneca or Marcus Aurelius or Christopher Hitchens, or even Sam Harris or Camus or any other great thinker or author or philosopher in history, Socrates, Plato, all these people, they have to be your objective standard, as the great painters are your objective standard when you try to better yourself. And as you get better, you will also get deeper into the flow, because you don't need to battle that hard with the technique. It becomes more fluid, it becomes more dance-like, and when it becomes more dance-like, you get way more room to think and ruminate. And there is nothing better than to ruminate while painting. Maybe you can put on some classical music because it doesn't really disturb the thinking process. I can listen to audiobooks, but if I go really deep into flow, I need to listen to music or something like that. But then I just ruminate through the whole process, and you go deeper and deeper and deeper, and it's almost like you just build your brain while dancing with brushwork. It's really beautiful, and I wish people knew this. Wish everybody had this great hobby. Even just a hobby, you don't have to make it into something. You just have to find your space. I mean, if it is laying puzzle, do that. If it is playing chess, do that. Chess is also great, but then you are more focused on the chess, and you have to focus on concrete things. When it comes to painting, it's more like music. It's more fluid. It's more like dancing. It's more like martial arts contra heavy lifting. If you do martial arts, you're more in the flow. If you do heavy lifting, you have to focus on every movement in a more stringent or rigid way. So yeah, I definitely think that brushwork can make you evolve character, or evolve your character, bring it further into something deeper. Yes, that is my conclusion. I do not think that happens to people like Picasso or other artists who didn't become good people, who believe too much in their own vanity, their own narcissism. And of course they made a lot of art, but it didn't really go deep. They always had to invent something new. When artists becomes like that, they always have to invent something new. It's more like a drug than a flow state. It's more like trying to find some reason to feel good about yourself that day. And that is also the problem when artists actually lose themselves and they stop loving the brushwork or stop loving the painting in itself, and they have to create so many things because they want to show everybody else how great they are, that actually that flow state dies and they become more closed up and even narcissistic again, and it's a shame. So yeah, kill your darlings. I've said that many times in this video, but yeah, you have to kill your darlings. You have to bring it to a level of honesty and difficulty that will push you, and that is constantly sends back to you that you want to do better. Yeah, so that is how painting and brushwork will build character through flow, thinking, ruminating, and basically pushing your skill wall and the joy of the dance itself. That is basically why I paint at all. It is because I like the dance. and I also like to dance. See you in the next segment. Okay, here we are, part 11, touch-up, brushwork all over, part 1. Now, in this segment, which is 20 minutes long, I will show you how I basically add more brushwork on top of already wet brushwork. As you can see now, the whole sketching process is finished, and what I'm actually doing now is starting to tighten things up. So what happens now is that I have to be even more careful. I have to make even deeper choices. And yeah, actually doing that for, I was between 8 or 10 hours, if I remember it correctly. It really took its toll, on the brain. And back then I was actually also younger. I can see in this video that I have aged, finally started aging. I couldn't really see it that much until I was at least 54 or 50. Well, in 2020 I got the shock of winding up in a situation where I was arrested for some gun things. I have a hobby. I rebuilt a lot of guns and stuff. Well, actually, I didn't rebuild the guns. I rebuilded replica guns or blank guns and made them shoot bullets. I made bullets from from blank ammunition with lead and everything. And my artistic mind just totally took over, and basically it became a manic thing. In 8 years, I have bought like 80 guns and rebuilt a lot of them. In the process, of course, I destroyed many of them because I didn't know what I was doing. And I got better and better at it, just the way I got better and better doing paintings. And the problem was that they were going to stop the sales in Norway with these replicas because criminals used them. And they checked the place where I bought them, and they saw this strange artist with no record had bought 80 of these things. So with Breivik and the terror in Norway, they maybe thought they was going to check it out. And when they came and checked it out, they saw I had rebuilt these, and that was the thing that was illegal. It wasn't actually legal to buy them or have them. It was illegal to rebuild them, because then they were seen as real guns, and you have to have gun permit in Norway. So I was basically judged for, sentenced to for 80 different gun charges, really, for every single gun. I got 365 days, and it was a kind of a beautiful experience in a way. And I sometimes actually miss the calm I found when I was in there. And it's strange because it's like Eric Fromm. He wrote a book once, Escape from Freedom. And it is strange because when you get out and you are free, you start to do the wrong things and you don't focus that well because you have too much freedom. And it is weird that with my brain I actually had more focus when I was limited by outer things, following rules, getting up in the morning, all these things. And yeah, so in a way I wish I could make my own prison, to be honest. You find a video on my YouTube channel called 365 Days, called Heartbreak and Punishment, because I also were heartbroken when I went in there. So that was, of course, made the experience even stronger. And I took up drawing again, and I painted with water-based oil paint, some landscapes and stuff. And I wish I did more, actually, because, yeah. Anyway, so it was a good experience in many ways. But 1 year was definitely enough. So I wish I could do more of the same process or same rhythm. Anyway, this was supposed to be about brushwork, and I will go back to that. As you can see now, you see that I have built thicker colors in the white and keeping it down in the background. There are some shine in this, so it's maybe difficult to see. Now, when you see that I can talk about what I was talking about in one other segment. You saw I painted that leaf, and in a way I see now I can go like that, down like this from the side. I don't make a line down, and then I go beside it and I tighten it up, so that way I move the background closer, or I move that stilk, as it's called in Norway, the rod or whatever you call it, what holds the flower up, and I make it thicker or thinner with the use of the background. Let's see if I can actually find this segment here. You can see how I do. I'm very careful now, just touching it up, tighten it up, and yeah, it's fascinating to look at, actually, even for me, because it's such a long time and I can't see myself when I do it. I can only see the video, and in a way I kind of step out of myself and look at it as it was a different person who is actually doing it. So that's quite interesting. It's all about contrasts. Here you can see here. Now I'm just using the dark, and I going up and I just dragging. You see, I'm dragging. I'm pretty sure that you will see here soon that I kind of even out the dark and make it more fluid and stuff. Of course I haven't, you see here I moved the thing by adding in the background, and the way what happens then, some of the color that was in actually the leaf there is dragged into the background, so you kind of link the colors more. You get more of the colors all over the place, not just one color in that object and one color. You just kind of make the transition from that rod or stilk or whatever to the background. You make them fluent and get rid of too much of the lines. You see here too, I just take some more greenish and I just paint it this way. So now I kind of paint over the background, and with doing that I also get some of the color from the background into the leaf, and that way the whole painting becomes more holistic. And as you see here, I add more light, and maybe to even enhance it, maybe I go in the background also and tone it down a little bit. Can be. See what happens. I've never seen I never see my videos all through. I don't think I've ever seen a single one of my own videos all through. I know there is a lot of people who actually do that like to have my videos on while they are painting and listen to me babble. Hopefully in the future there will be way more people who like my content and find it to be ASMR like. That would be great. Here you can see some more close up of the brushwork here. Now going further away. So, and you see I'm kind of dancing because if you see the original file, I'm playing music. And I'm so happy. It's like 10 hours or whatever it was, 8 or 10 hours on the dance floor. Of course you have some breaks and coffee drinking and stuff, but when I get into flows like this, I can just do it until I drop. There's no there is no limit to. It's basically like drinking. If you don't drink fast, you can keep doing it. It's like eating crisps. You can eat tons of it without getting full, because it adds or give you this beautiful dopamine rush through the whole process. And when I don't get to do this, I get really depressed, and it's been a problem that I have been to not been that focused. Been too much chaos in my life the last years, but I feel like I'm really getting into it again. And of course I have to do it now. I'm 58, I'm not 28 anymore, and I really have to focus to what I fear the most, I think, is to die and feel that I didn't do my job, that I didn't live up to my potential. Of course, I will never reach to paint all the paintings I want. That will just not happen. There is not enough time in existence for that to happen, sadly. But for me then, of course, in existence, for me in existence. So then there's that. And that is a shame, actually, because we are the only known animal in the known universe, or that we know of, that has introspection and the capability of doing this kind of work. And I'm sure that wherever you see in the universe, if you find sentient creatures, if you find creatures who actually say, I think, therefore I am, or have morals, or have introspection, which is necessary to create anything like science. And so creativity is the only way. That is why I say, if we meet some highly evolved beings with a scientific culture that have survived their infancy without destroying themselves, they do have art, they do have science, they do think the same thoughts as us about existence and everything. I do think they also will have the same existential problems as we do. Maybe they have solved that problem, so given themselves infinite life in the universe. But, so I think sentient beings, or beings that has introspection and consciousness, will always slam into the same problems, and we will also have the same evolution, and we will understand the same things, because we can't make spaceships or technology unless we are conscious and do art. So there won't be a being with high tech which demands the understanding of quantum physics that doesn't have consciousness. You can't create anything out of non-consciousness, and you see that in the whole animal kingdom. They can make nests and stuff, but they don't know that they are doing it. They're just repeating a thing done by through evolution. And you can say, so have we, in a way. Not in a way, we have also evolved from the most simplest cave paintings or scribblings on bone or rocks to this, to create art that represents reality. And we are actually some of us are extremely good at it, like Philip Weber artist, or Vermeer, or Rembrandt, or whatever. They are so good at representing, or basically printing reality onto a canvas, that it is an extreme high level of consciousness. I think actually people in general underestimate how amazing being human is. And I feel sad about it because we have war, famine, death, crazy religions who suppress people. We lose so much consciousness by not being able to open up. That is, it's just sad. And we are so beautiful. So that is why I don't laugh when Russian soldiers are killed on a battlefield in Ukraine. It is a tragedy. They were kids too. They had dreams. They laughed. They suckled their mom. They cried and they were happy because it was Christmas, and they maybe loved their parents and their children, and just like everybody else, and they are just killed in meat waves, and they could be the best of artists, the best of thinkers, the best of human beings if they had the chance. So we are wasting so much consciousness in poverty and war and everything. We are exploiting our children in every way. We don't care. Actually, there was a survey that if you ask people in general if they would save a child or their own dog, they say they would rather save their own dog. What I say, I would kill every single dog in the world to save one human being. And I'm sure of it. Well, I would go even one further. I think I would have, now I know I would have done it to save my own daughter. I would have destroyed every single animal on the planet to save my daughter. Now, I wouldn't have done the same. I wouldn't have offed every human being on the planet to save my daughter or myself. Hopefully. I hope I wouldn't. Because human beings are way more important than one person. So, and there are heroes that are sung that actually sacrifice themselves for other beings. But to sacrifice my daughter or myself for some dogs or some elephants or blue whales, that will never happen. So, yeah. We are a way for the universe to know itself, as Carl Sagan do say. And when we off one human being, we are basically destroying a cosmic brain, or a brain of the universe. It makes me think sometimes that maybe since infinity is probably a fact, maybe the universe, infinity, the multiverse, and the quantum soup and the fluctuations have a goal in creating consciousness so it can see itself. So there is an infinite thoughtless process who are creating consciousness as a byproduct of natural laws. And it's just amazing. It is just mind-boggling amazing. And we don't appreciate it. We treat each other so badly. And we don't really appreciate it. And yeah, I know this became other things than brushwork, but I do like to talk about other things when I paint, and I like to talk about other things than brushwork when I do. But you can actually see what I'm doing here. So here you can see I'm going in between. I added some light underneath there. It was a little bit too light. I'll probably take that down a notch. But that is how, maybe that little piece there, I think I do think I'm going to paint over it. I'm not sure, but yeah, you see, that's a way, you know. Now I'm using the background now to just pull out the leaves and give it some more space. So yeah, here too. These are choices. These are concrete choices. I'm going to start doing more of this. And work slower with my sketches. Yeah. Okay, I see you in the next segment, and I'm just gonna keep on being a exercise. Okay, this is the last long segment, part 12. It's the same as the last one, touching up, where I do a touch-up of the whole thing. As you can see now, it has become quite nice. I have been able to control the whole thing in quite a good way, I think. And yeah. So it was kind of husky. I used to eat way too much carbs, and it made my... I trained a lot, but I ate way too much carbs, way too much fruit, and I had this kind of this baby fat on my body all the time. It's kind of strange to see. Anyway, yeah, where were I? I was talking about consciousness and existentialism. Maybe I should talk about what inspires me. What do actually inspire me? What inspires me is, of course, what's difficult. I've been banging on about that for a long time now. That is why I love all art that is very difficult to make. And the more difficult it is, the better I think it is. There's a lot of people who believe that that is superficial, that things has to be so spiritual and emotional and stuff. I think that is a cop-out in a way, because if something's really well done, I'm pretty sure that the person has also put his own emotions quite deep into it and worked with it like crazy to make it become that beautiful object. And yeah, I think that builds more than most in many ways. So yeah, there we can see I'm just tinkering, and let's talk about what inspires me the most when it comes to painting. I have a few paintings that I really think it's some of the greats. It's of course the self-portrait of Rembrandt as an older man. They are really beautiful. You can see how his precision has become really great. And that is what I was talking about, when you are actually reaching a point where the brushwork is so natural to you that you become a virtuoso. That is when you can actually go into this deep flow. And I think when in the evenings when Rembrandt were painting his self-portrait with all the sorrow, the loss of his loved ones and everything, it must have been strange for him to look himself in that mirror and think of all the money he spent and all the time he spent and all the broken promises and all the hubris he had in the beginning of his career. So yeah, I think you can see that in his paintings, and I think only people with a deep sense of self that have really gone deep enough to see themselves in that way is also able to do that kind of brushwork. There has to be kind of not a higher goal, but a higher sense of self to reach that level of precision and skill. I also think, of course, many people say, well, it's not detailed and stuff, and it isn't. But the precision is details enough. You don't have to fill in all the blanks for it to be a holistic painting. The problem is when people fall into the cracks that are actually making it very photorealistic, but they don't go further enough, so it just feels rigid. And that is why I always talk about Philip Weber artist, because I feel that he has gone through there the whole process. If you see his earlier works, you can see how his paintings are photorealistic, but they are more superficial. But now he has gone past that, and you have to check out Philip Weber artist and go in and look at the amount of detail or textures. It's not details he builds now, it's more texture. He builds texture. It's almost like he's painting every pore in the skin, every hair on their heads, and he does it correctly. And it's a level of skill that is so profound that it becomes as good as Rembrandt. It becomes loose despite having every single detail in it. And that is, to me, if I should use a cliche, is kind of godlike. I mean, that is what gods do. That is what people who have reached the highest level of consciousness, the highest level of skill do. They do this kind of work. And I don't have a chance to get that far in my lifetime, because I started too late, I wasted too much time, too many regrets. But what I can do is to become the most me that I can, and become the best version of me that I can. And having these people, as I always bang on about, being my objective standards, and having the great thinkers as objective standards, it's a good thing, because it's inspiring, simply inspiring. People get inspired by me and I can actually teach people to paint because I know what it takes. I know what not to focus on. As I always do when I teach people, forget being an artist. Focus on the painting and getting better. The artist is already in you. You just have to bring him out. And I saw some pictures of my sculpture teacher in Stavanger, Krzysztof Nasilowski, and the depth in his eyes and the way he was looking at you, or looking at an object, is amazing. I remember one time I had we had assignment called book. That was the word. It was a word, book. And I created this sculpture of a person who kneeled down his head and over a book and was reading. And everything I did was basically around cliche shapes. And I asked him what he thought, and he didn't answer my question. But he took a piece of wood and he smashed it into squares. And I stood there, just my tongue almost, gaping. And he said, just try again, he said. Try again. And I honestly had no idea what to do. I didn't really feel angry at him. I felt some anger there. Actually, there was another time I did feel angry with a teacher because I had done a quite good drawing of nude. And I asked him a question, and he grabbed my pen and he just roughly just put in a lot of hard lines and ruined the whole drawing. But that was a drawing that was basically finished, and I just one little tip. He could have said, if you strengthen some of the lines, he could have said, if you strengthen some of the lines and increase the shadows and maybe look a little better and this and that, that would have been okay. But it was actually his arrogance that was the worst. When Christoph did it, he just told me flat out, break it down and rebuild. Break it down and rebuild. And since he was the kind of person he was, I was able to take him seriously. And he actually taught me in some other course who is called Micro Macro. He made me see the difference between objectivity and subjectivity, and he taught me how to see objects in relation to each other. It was also about composition, words, paper, wood, different textures. He basically taught me how to think. So yeah, that is what you basically have. I don't have no idea how I ended up here right now, honestly. But anyway, I guess the point is that you have to tear down stuff sometimes to rebuild, and if you are going to become also a better person, you have to tear down everything and rebuild. So yeah, and I've done that several times in my life. Well, now you can see I'm doing the last touch up here. It's like 4:30 in the morning now, so I'm basically doing the same rhythm as I used back then. You see now I'm just strengthening the small lines here, just touching it up. Yeah, it's fascinating to look at myself paint actually. I hope some people actually like this, what I'm doing now, when I'm talking and making these audio things, that they actually bother learning from it. Just see what I'm doing. Try to see what I'm doing now. I'm just absorbing the object, and I'm just trying to add. You can't see it because from my hand. That was stupid, but okay. Yeah, as I said, that Christopher guy, he died of lung cancer when he was 62, I think, in 2018. So that is how it goes. And I thought, as I feel I have to do as much as I can. I mean, my other hero, Christopher Hitchens, also died of cancer when he was 63, I think, or 62. And he did a lot of good work before he died, and that is what I want to do. I want to get better. I want to feel like it counted a little bit, you know, what I did. So, but I think maybe the best thing you can do is to be a good person. Try to be a good person. And with that, I don't mean be a simp or accepting people stupidity and being weak. I'm saying being truthful and try to live up to your own ideals. And it's really difficult. It's the most difficult thing in the world. So yeah. Really, really difficult. Okay, last touch up. I have a dream that people start asking more questions. And yeah. That's too with creating these videos is a thing I always talk about. Every time somebody watching my videos, they are prolonging my life. They are watching the time I lived over and over and over again. I mean, think every single painting Rembrandt or anyone else painted, every time you stand before these paintings, you can see frozen time. You can see the time in the brushwork. You can see the choices. And that is a problem with paintings that don't have any brushwork or any concrete trace of the artist, which are more flat. You can't really see the process. You're seeing a motive, but you're not seeing an artist. You're not seeing that somebody was there. You can't say, wow, that brushwork was a choice. It was laid down by a conscious choice. Or maybe even just a part of a flow where he said, he put in a, maybe coincidentally, which very often happens, you put down a brush stroke with your pencil or whatever, and something happens, and it's like, wow, and you leave it there, and it's a manifestation of flow, unconscious choices, and then making it conscious when you see what happened. So there are two ways to create brushwork in a way. You can do it in the flow and let it come, or you can stand there and look at your painting and tell yourself, okay, I need another brush stroke right there. So this is a mix between all those things. And as I said in the other segment, it is character building because you are making choices. I mean, making choices and not just being thrown into the wind by coincidences. It's a very good way to create consistency and finished paintings. But in a painting, of course, there has to be a dance between these two things. The coincidence, the flow, the knowledge you have. And also, as you get better, as your paintings get better, what you actually learn is to look into the future. You are building intuition. And this type of intuition, if you are doing honest artwork, not the superficial bullshit that many people do, but honest artwork, it will create something real inside you over time. It will force that little child to come back and start playing. Now, I know a person who was in a course to learn how to play because she had a bad childhood and stuff. But I don't think you can learn how to play through people telling you to jump up and down and do all those weird things. I think what you have to do to learn how to play is to get a hobby and go deep and find the flow and start ruminating and thinking and feeling all these feelings that comes up when you are, if you are abused, if you were something happened in your childhood, the painting can bring back the memories and you can sit there and paint and work with it and get over it and strengthen your personality and your brain and everything. So, yeah, that was also one of my long rants. So, I think it's nice to make these. It's also nice for me to just talk because this will also survive me, hopefully. And maybe somebody find it interesting enough to take care of it after I'm dead. Anyway, with this, I guess we are going into the last segment, so I hope to see you there, and yay, stay cool, keep painting. Hey. Okay, here we go into the last brushwork. Just a short clip. I wanted to have it because of the angle, and you can actually look at a little bit closer what I do. Here I go again in between, as you see, and I correct things. Even now at this late stage, I keep correcting. The good thing is that if you have put on not too thick colors in the background there, you can actually go over without it becoming a mush. But you really, or dirty as I would call it, but you really have to know what you're doing. There are not many times you can go over it like that. I'm kind of directing the music while I'm painting. In the main file you can listen to the music I play. It's a lot of U2 and all kinds of music that I love. So that is also one of the things that are so beautiful with doing this kind of work. You have a lot of alone time. You have your life basically to yourself. So I mean, if you could actually make a living of this, you are very privileged. So yeah, I'm very lucky to live in a country that is Norway, where I actually can make a living from this and do this full time. So yeah, it's great. I feel sorry for all the people who, of course, do not live in countries where this kind of creative work is possible, because they have enough with finding food every day. So we should do something with that. Here you can see basically the finished painting, how it became out now. So how was I kind of done with this, or how could I say I was done with it? Well, because it was the goal just to finish it, to finish the sketch like this, and I think I managed to do it so in one go. It would be a shame to paint over it after using that thing. Okay, see you. Huey. Yeah. I was supposed to use, what did I say, 3 hours. I started 4 o'clock in the morning. Now it's 12:30 in the daytime, so I used actually 8.5 hours going all the way. And my back is killing me and my head is just overwhelmed. But I think it became quite nice actually for being the first sketch. Yeah. People asking about texture and stuff. Maybe I could focus it a little bit. That's strange. Yeah, like that. Here you see the texture. How I have been painting it layer by layer by layer by layer. Fascinating process. Yeah. 8.5 hours. And I'm really tired. It's a beautiful feeling. I think I surprised myself a little bit. Probably gonna do a little bit touch up tomorrow, but like kind
kind of make it, give it a little bit more, say, contrasts. But yeah, was it just supposed to be a Impressionist painting anyway? So anyway, here I am, tired, really tired. Well, as it says on my mirror, love is great, God is not, and we just have to do our best with the life we have, because it's probably all we have. I think I lost a couple of kilos while I was painting now. Okay, anyway, good morning and good night from Norway. Yeah. Bye bye.